afternoon, everybody. Clearly an A-star panel. As I was walking, I realized all of our initials are A. So we are talking about supply chain today. In November, I was reading that the Californian Port Authority reported that after 2 years, they were able to clear that backlog that began after the pandemic. And clearly, when we were heading into the holiday season, some retailers said that their inventories were still heavy. And then, of course, the zero COVID policy of China that played out, that clearly weighed on supply chain. Now, ironically, the last time when we had the retail summit in December, we were seeing a bit of a spike in COVID cases. And if you look at the situation in the last week, we're clearly seeing that spike again. And that is why I think I was reading this report by Deloitte, which said that out of every 10 retailers they talked to, 7 said that supply chain issues will persist in 2023. So in your opening comments, my panelists, I want to understand that how confident are retailers in navigating these supply chain issues in the year ahead? What are the challenges? And the good thing about this panel is that all of them, they're covering diverse sectors, so we'll get a varied perspective from all of them. Abhinav, if you would like to start.
Absolutely. So, in terms of challenges for 2023, what we are seeing is that, and this has already started from January, there is a lot of material scarcity. We've already seen in the last 2 or 3 months that there are certain product types which are not available in the country, and that is partly due to commitments for outside exports. Next thing that is going to become a challenge is because of a lot of, and I'm talking this from a FMCG point of view, there is a lot of consumer demand and a mental paradigm shift which has happened. And because of this, data projections in terms of forecasting have become inaccurate. And this is across everywhere. Thirdly, while companies are, digitizing their operations, people need to understand that it will take some time for them to give out optimum results. And in this particular bracket, there is a lot of restructuring that is going to happen in FMCG companies in terms of, switching suppliers, in terms of better contracts which are come into play. And because of these particular factors, at least in FMCG, we are anticipating, and everybody knows what's happening in the world. Fuel prices are increasing, warehousing costs are increasing, and all this is going to either come out from the margins or from the profits. Now, in order to kind of work around this from a pure FMCG point of view, the new shop, we are working on a lot of data analytics, real-time data sharing and tracking given to brands and distributors, so that those supply chains are becoming longer and more fragile. We want to shorten this up and make them more robust.
Right.
So that is a little bit of what we are doing, how we are planning to navigate. Obviously, time is going to tell what's going to happen. And at least accepting that things are going to change is, I think, the first step that companies can take in, at least addressing this problem.
Right. Thank you so much, Abhinav. Avneet ji, your thoughts on it, the outlook that you're seeing for your sector, considering it was at the forefront in terms of the challenges that your sector faced since the pandemic when the supply chain disruptions began.
First of all, good afternoon, everyone. So, firstly, I'll just introduce myself, and because I come from electronic industry, we are one of the foremost manufacturer for smart TVs. I had 5 brands with Thomson, Kodak, Loppo, and Westinghouse. And we do other electronic products and appliances. So coming back to your question, I think the supply chain problem after COVID that all of us has experiencing, especially in electronics, I think it was a talk of point, especially semiconductors.
Right.
People didn't even hear what was semiconductor about 3 years back, and it was in the news every day. Whatever the world was expecting in next 5 years actually happened in 2 years. And the consumption of electronics went, especially screens. And whenever you're connected with screen, there is microchips that are involved. And the spike and the disruption happened so widely, the sales went up by 200%, 100% in the world. While that, the whole transformation was going on, Suddenly, second wave, third wave came in, and the whole globally, they were, the sales were completely down. And then most of us globally, the lobby has been so far with China, especially with screens. There's nobody in the world who makes screens apart from China. So when they realized that the whole globally everybody is dependent on that, there was a huge supply chain shortage, and they benefited out of it. The kind of profits that they had for that 4 or 3 quarters was profit cumulative of 10 years. So that kind of things happened. Now currently, most of us, we don't know what is the exact MSL. The moment we think that the situation is normalized, today the record's been, the COVID cases is highest in 140 or 150 days. So the kind of MSL that is required is very hard for any brand to judge, and the kind of risk-taking abilities that are involving in supply chain is huge. Because a lot of work, and it's a capital-intensive product, so a lot of your working capital is involved. So, during the course of action, the war happened. The commodity prices went up like anything. Right. So the supply chain has been affected. I think this year again it will be affected. Raw material prices, as sir said, that oil prices and other commodities have started again going up. Right. So supply will be disrupted. There will be a lot of products I feel that will be out of stock again this year. Brands have to choose and pick, and they have to take wise decisions. Which other products will be, the demand of those products will be high. And this becomes, and you're not ready. We were not ready. Nobody had experience of this kind of pandemic, firstly. Right. So it's probably, I'll say that you need to have your skill set absolutely right. And that's what matters a lot. And next 3 to 4 quarters will be very, very crucial again in India. And one needs to have, as we have increased our MSL from 60 days to 90 to 120 days. May is very good season for us, and then the festive season comes in. So supply versus cost, I think both this year is very, very crucial. And we need to have more alternative if we need to have a better supply chain. I have been very vocal from last 6 to 7 years. We realized after pandemic, and there have been a lot of steps. You must be seeing a lot of PM itself and other electronic ministers have been very vocal. How smartphone, we are the second largest smartphone manufacturer now. I think there has to be more categories that needs to be added. Right. And to have a core raw material factories in India.
Right. Thank you, Avneet ji. And clearly from Abhinav and Avneet ji's discussions, their points, the one thing that I'm able to clearly pick up, that inflation remains a concern, and clearly, the Federal Reserve, the US Federal Reserve, and if you look at central banks around the world, including India's RBI, they are on a rate hiking spree, which clearly is denting consumer demand to some extent. But at the same time, if you look at the retail sales data, at least in the US, that clearly reinforces that retail sales are strong, and that is why the financial markets are really, on the nerves, thinking that the Federal Reserve might continue, hiking the interest rates. So Aditya ji, I want to understand from you that for your sector, how are things looking?
So I'm from the fashion sector, and fashion traditionally has been a very slow sector. Cotton is grown, and fashion, the cycle of fashion starts from there. So I mean, the one thing that we saw that everything had to be very, very nimble and fast. When times are very, very uncertain, I think we have to be very, very frugal and nimble. So our DNA as far as Campus Sutra goes, we are the biggest bootstrap fashion brand in the country. We do about 350 crores in revenue, and we are available in about 23 countries and in about 500 offline stores. We are an e-commerce first brand. So, the thing that we realized, because we knew that the time was going to be very, very uncertain, so we need to make sure that our supply chain needs to be very, very nimble and very, very fast. So we made about 84 small and big changes in our logistic network, which delivered 4 competitive advantages to us. One is that our mine to market is 21 days. So for example, if I like the shirt that you're wearing, I can bring it to the floor in 21 days. The industry works in anywhere between 6 to 18 months. So that is one major competitive advantage that we have. Our sell-through is about 99%. We almost sell everything that we make. And we sell everything we make, and we sell everything in 2 months. So our inventory turnover is 2 months. And as well as, there is a consistency of experience that we have been able to give to the customer. If it's the first order or the 10th order, the order consistency is going to be same. So based on these 4 competitive advantages, we operated really well even during the COVID period, because we had faster turnaround times. Our supply chain was nimble. There were not a lot of fat in our supply chain. So that really helped us. So I think my one key takeaway would be, to be as nimble and as nimble as possible when you're building a supply chain and thinking about the future.
Right, thank you, Aditya. Anish ji, you sort of have a bird's eye view of a lot of sectors. What are your understanding on this?
So we are working with a lot of sectors. So we are sector agnostic. So we are working with FMCG, we are working with pharma, we have worked with auto, right? We are working with power sector. So one thing that we have observed was before COVID and post-COVID, right? So whoever used to be the procurement, we are working with mainly Fortune 500 companies, right? So mostly we are working with the procurement head or the CPO of any organization, right? So mostly earlier the tendency was to buy at a lower price, right? That's what the starting point initially was. And after COVID, it is a shift, right? It's not just buying at a lower price. You have to make sure that your supply chain is working, right? You have the material, right? As sir talked about the sensors, right? So currently also in auto industry, we have sensors that are taking 9 months to come, right? We were just dependent on China a lot, right? Now we are working on how India will grow and become a semiconductor destination, right? So things are working out, but it will take time. Things have changed, people have changed, the mentality have changed. The technology, be it using machine learning to basically understand the supply chain, basically keeping the inventory according to the technology, right? This all have gained the momentum, and as clearly stated, what we were expecting to be done in 10 years is done in 2 years. But there are a lot of changes that has to be there, right? So obviously this year we are better, but the disruption will be there, right? And are we prepared? 50% I can say, but it's still a long way to go, and use of technology in supply chain is the one thing that is a key here.
You mentioned profitability in your first answer when you were giving it. I want to understand that, in these last 2 years, last mile delivery, quick delivery, they've all become very essential for consumers, but it came at a cost of profitability, right? Now, because we have to discuss warehousing as well, I want to understand that how in this whole picture do automated micro fulfillment centers come, and are they the next big thing when we are talking about warehousing?
With this particular context and FMCG in mind, I will not talk about automated micro fulfillment centers, but I would talk about micro fulfillment centers. Now, the way our company works, and this we have been piloting and moving, very soon we'll be moving into this direction. People want to become asset light. They want to get away from warehousing, the supply chain, logistics, etc., etc. And one way to do this and to keep your margins and profits intact is moving on to individual profit and revenue centers. Especially from a small store format that we run, we are moving on everything into a DSD model.
Okay.
or and a block shipment model. Now, what we are it will not happen with every brand, but what we want is at least 80% of our assortment at our stores should come under a DSD model. We have our own in-house tech platforms. That means that we've created our own POS systems, point of sale. We have our own inventory management systems. And by creating your in-house platforms, you can collect a lot of data points that you require. You can analyze them, and you can just give a real-time tracking of sales, inventory, of analytics to brands, which kind of enables them to enhance, optimize their supply chains towards us. So for example, a brand who was earlier supplying us 10 SKUs, out of which 3 SKUs were only selling. Now there is no point keeping dead inventory in a small store format. So with this data and analytics, we are now moving into keeping only the SKUs that sell. We are getting into smaller inventory formats. We don't want to hold too much inventory because consumer patterns are changing at a very rapid pace. People who, for example, like a brand today, will shift to a different brand. Loyalties with respect to brands are fading, which we need to understand. So, ultimately we're not losing too much margin when we work under a DSD model. Brands who are shipping us products don't mind if we give them a decent order size per outlet. They are more than willing to eliminate the distributor in between, and if we can give them good data, the supply chain can be absolutely seamless, short, robust, which I was talking earlier.
Right.
So here is where you kind of start saving on your margins, which ultimately affect your profitability.
Right. Thank you, Abhinav. Avneet ji, your thoughts on it?
Last mile delivery firstly, I'll just tell you the perspective how the industry has really growing, and the last topic was online and offline.
Right.
See, 5 years back, television, smart TVs, if I'll propose you, it was not even 5,000 units a year. Today, it's more than 4 to 5 million units. So that is how the industry has grown over the online. Now the big question comes in look and feel. And that's where, people used to tell us that, above 10,000 ticket size, TVs will not sell, appliances will not sell, because in India you need look and feel. And that's where the tech came into the picture, and a lot of description of specs, etc., pictures, videos, a lot of them came in. Now, after that, the other solve was delivery. If I go to any store, whenever I want television, within hours I can get the delivery of the product.
Right.
Now, my perspective is, I'm watching a TV at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the evening, and it stops working. In tier 1 and in most of the high tier 2 cities, you're getting deliveries under 12 hours. So 9 o'clock, I order my television. By 10 o'clock, it's on my doorstep. The stores are not open, mind you. And by 12 o'clock, there is somebody for installation. So the last mile has improved a lot. India has about roughly 17 to 18,000 pin codes, and 2,300 cities and towns in India contributes 90 to 95% of sales, most of the products. So we have gone that extensively into the country. Not electronics, other products also.
Right.
And believe me, the kind of changes that we have seen, the consumer behavior that we have seen during this pandemic era, the highest growing sector right now is the premium sector, mind you. It's not the entry level product anymore.
Right.
We are selling 4Ks more than HD FHD in some of the cases. Same goes with cell phones. I'll give you a number for iPhone. One of the platforms sold 1 million iPhones during the festive sale. Highest ever by any retailer in the world for iPhones. So that kind of changes are happening. When I meet people, and don't take me wrong, when the TG group between more than 35 or maybe more than 40, they're still not believing this is happening in India. That's the biggest blocker that I see. And there is, so for any company, the thing is that consumers should, get the best price. And I've seen that in our scenario, there are a lot of products that is completely mismatched, especially in premium segment. So, last mile, as you spoke, that deliveries are very important. But apart from deliveries, there are a lot of other facilities that these platforms have started giving. And now there's a very healthy competition in offline also. The other one has also started giving. So, at the end of the day, we need to increase the consumerism, okay? And delivery plays a very, very vital role. And other things are returns and etc. that we'll discuss later on. But yes, delivery logistics contributes in a high volumetric commodity. It's about 7 to 8%, which is very, very huge.
Right.
So yes, things are improving a lot, and then last mile has improved immensely in last 2 to 3 years, and now like groceries, we are working. There has been a lot of models that have been tested, but yes, I feel in next 2 years, your electronics will be there in 2 hours. Okay, starting with smartphones and then going on to other products.
Right. Thank you, Avneet ji. Quite comprehensive insights. Aditya, if you would like to add something to that.
I think last mile in India is the best in the world. I think we are writing the script for the entire world on how last mile should be done. ये 10 मिनट डिलीवरी एंड 20 मिनट डिलीवरी किसी ने यूएस इवॉल्व वर्ल्ड में सुना भी नहीं है. सो दिस इज़ वेरी न्यू फॉर अस, नोबडी नोज. बट फैशन का मेरा टेक थोड़ा सा कॉन्ट्ररी है, क्योंकि मेरे में लास्ट माइल 10 मिनट चलता नहीं है. मतलब ऑनेस्टली फॉर मी, I have a centralized warehouse which is 1.5 lakh square feet, and I dispatch everything from that same central warehouse. Like Rashmi ji in the last panel discussion from Jaipur was talking about that she ordered 6 items and 6 अलग अलग जगह से आया उनके पास item. तो fashion is a 2, 3, 4 bundle product category, and for me last mile or last mile warehousing doesn't work because one, it is very expensive, and second, for me, fashion is a high width category. You are not going to see, if you are buying the same, if you are wearing the same shirt, he is not going to wear the same shirt. So everybody looks for diversity. I have about 42,000 SKUs, and for me to maintain that at last mile delivery is very, very difficult. So as far as my expertise goes in terms of fashion, I would rather have a central warehouse, and I would dispatch goods from that central warehouse and use the fastest way to deliver to a customer. But as far as electronics is concerned, as far as FMCG is concerned, I think we have just written the script for last mile delivery for the entire world to follow, and I think we are the flag bearer of last mile delivery here. So I think we need to really be proud of ourselves and give us a pat on our backs to kind of have developed. So, and it's the cheapest in the world as well. So we need to kind of really take notice of that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aditya. Anish ji, I want to understand from you the technological aspect that we were talking in your previous answer. Now, clearly there are a lot of emerging technologies when it comes to the supply chains, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain. And now that 5G is coming in, if you look at the enterprise use cases, the way telecom operators projected when it was launched back in October, although it will take time, but what are your views on it in revolutionizing the supply chains and with the 5G coming in and with these emerging technologies?
One thing that will change, right, with coming of 5G in the supply chain is the traceability and the tracking of each and every product, right? So frankly, when we started in 2015, right, in the B2B sector, when we used to do the logistic, right, first of all, there was no tracking at all, right? So if you are sending a motor somewhere, right, through Gati or so, any of the player at that point of time who are the big players, right, they they even don't know about the traceability, that which truck driver is carrying it, what product it is carrying it, right? There was no IoT device, nothing like that, right? But recently we have seen that the technology aspect, right? The blockchain, right? Each and every product marking, if you have a shelf life for a product, right? A blockchain can be very useful for it. If a product is going from some place, right? An IoT device, if it is attached, you can have a real-time analytics of where the product is, right? And which is very important at today's point, right? With coming of Geo, right? India being at the forefront, right? It was something that has to come with Geo, right? And obviously with the coming of 5G, the things will improve, right? The traceability will improve. At any the so many pin codes are there, right? At any of the pin code you can have a 5G and you can trace that product, right? So I think so the supply chain is going for better, right? And it will improve with the coming of 5G. And that's where the traceability is the main key thing that will improve.
See, we need to understand this technology also. IoT devices collect or send out the, you've got readers which kind of read the entire readings and all the data. And then you need this to be relayed real time for tracking to happen. Now, with coming up of good connectivity, this traceability is going to increase. But still, this entire technology is has generally or traditionally been done for plant and machinery, for transcontinental shipments, for basically high ticket items, because the infrastructure cost is high. Now to get this into FMCG, like you at the end the customer wants an ice cream at 20 rupees, and if you kind of at the current running cost, if you have FMCG shipments using these data loggers, your RFID active and passive tags, you've got RFID now, locks, etc., which transmit data, you're going to get the 20 rupee ice cream for 40 rupees or 50 rupees. So there needs to be some technological advancements to lower down these costs so that traceability, trackability, and efficiency can happen in the FMCG segment as well.
Right. Thank you, Abhinav. Avneet ji, your quick thoughts on it. We're clearly short on time.
These technology needs to get mature very, very fast. I think we are still in an era where I feel that they are prematured and we talk a lot about IoT and 5G. I think it will take little time. Adaptability will take some time. I'll give you an example. In the morning I was having a meeting. Now this is a time for seasonal products. Electronic have seasonal for winters, you have heaters and freezers, etc. For summers you have coolers and AC. Suddenly the weather has changed. Okay, we always keep on talking about AI ne weather bata diya, and this happened, that happened. Nothing happened. I work with two best platforms in the country, and nobody had any idea that it will rain in north by the way. The inventory is stuck for all the brands. 50% sales have been just generated, the projections. No IoT, no AI, nothing has worked. And they have best of technologies. So everybody is just waiting, the summers will come, we'll have 40 degrees and the sales will again happen.
Right.
So, that's what I'm saying. Ground realities are very, very different. And we should, yes, technology is coming, the adaptability should be really fast. But, it will take some time. And if we really want to get into technology, it should be very in-depth. Just because बोलने के लिए अच्छा लगता है, मैं IoT है, मैं 5G कर रहा हूँ, मैंने logistics में सारे drivers के लगा दिए, sounds good, but the ground realities are very different. Driver knows how to, if he has to pull down for 5 hours, he knows what he has to be done. So everybody is facing the same problem. So that it will take some time. Plus, I think education is very important. And skilled labor is very, very important in all the sectors.
Right.
To adapt these technologies. That they should know what is the benefit.
True.
So that is very, very important. So yes, it will take some time, and hopefully By next 2 years when I come, if there is a rain, 15 days in advance I know, and the sales, there's another shipment that they will invert, not the seasonal products.
Right, thank you, Avneet ji. We have 5 minutes left, and Aditya, I'll come to the most important question for your sector, I think, reverse logistics. Clearly, this, I think the apparel sector is one sector where you will probably have the most number of cases, people not getting the right size, now bracket ordering, they order multiple size and then return, right? So tell us about the need of having that robust reverse logistics system.
First of all, I think return is a demon of our own. हमने create किया इसको. मतलब जैसे how e-commerce evolved. I think for sales people push GMV for the cost of return, at the cost of return. कि आप खरीद लो एक बार, आपको return करना है बाद में कर देना. So it's an attitude. So for example, as economies evolve, returns usually go down. So for example, in US, Canada market, I think it's only 5%. In French markets, it is about 8%. In Germany, it's about 70%, but that also is because the main retailer is doing something there. So, so I think if you need to take a long-term view on returns, I think it is going to go down. The biggest problem today is RTO, where a customer orders, but he is not there at his house, or he doesn't want to accept the product. So I think RTO is the biggest problem. So when we started our own D2C journey, we could only deliver 65% of the orders that we got. Almost 35% orders were RTOs or returns. So our customer rate is only 6%, but our RTO is almost 27%. So we reduced that 65% to we increased that 65% to 85% in about 6 to 8 months, and a lot of machine learning was involved, where we figure out what the customer is, what is the propensity of the customer to kind of accept that order or not. तो उसको हम COD option दिखाते ही नहीं है. So in some pin codes where a lot of COD orders are happening and a lot of RTOs are happening, those pin codes we have blocked. So we've done certain things to bring it from 65 to 85. And I think that journey will still continue when it goes to 80. When it goes, I think we can easily predict that we'll go to a 90 to 93% delivery delivery percentage. So if we take a long-term view, then building logistics infrastructure for returns is we should not do that ideally. But return logistics right now is very very expensive one. And second, return का सिर्फ return logistics का cost नहीं होता. The customer acquisition cost that you paid to bring that customer, the forward logistic cost that you paid to send that order is also. So it's a triple whammy. It's not only कि अगर कोई order 70 रुपए में सामने जाता है and 120 rupees में वापस आता है, तो वो 120 रुपए ही नहीं है cost उसका cost customer acquisition cost है, and it is also the cost of sending the product. So return is a huge drain in the entire P&L of the system. So that is why if return was not a problem, I think e-commerce would have been the best industry in the world to work in. And I would say everybody come work here, and I think you make millions here today.
Right.
So I think returns is the biggest problem, and I think we need to take a long-term view, long-term approach, see how we can solve it, where we can bring it, and build infrastructure according to it.
Right. Thank you, Aditya. Anish ji, what's your reading on this? What are your thoughts?
Us actually, return is not a major concern, right? Because we mainly deal in industrial procurement, right? So here basically, obviously, the machine parts are there, right? So obviously they require it, that's why they are buying it. It's not a choice. But obviously then for us, the returns happen in terms of quality, right? If there's a differ in quality or if in differ. So we have to map our suppliers accordingly why the return is coming, because for us it's not a choice that is there. It's mainly because of some issue that the client is facing, right? So we have to map why it is happening, which supplier it is happening, right? So all that again comes to mapping and basically doing the analysis ki why the things are happening if it's happening this way. Because for us, obviously, the percentage is very low, but the cost is very high of return, right? So that's where we have to map the things very properly, and we have to see the analysis and take out the cases where it is happening and take out the suppliers from the game.
Right. Thank you, Anish ji. We're clearly out of time. 30 seconds, Avneet ji. Very quickly, Abhinav, and if you would like to add to it.
All right. So from an FMCG point of view, I think our returns are one of the lowest in the industry compared to other industries. Logically, if we are a offline, we are on omni-channel format. So in offline, a return is only going to happen if the product integrity is compromised. There is no other reason why somebody will. And the best thing is in offline, if he takes the product, he finds it bad, he'll come back and he'll give it back to you. So there is no cost as such. From an online point of view, there might be a 1% or a 0.5% return, again on product integrity. Now, for FMCG brands, for retailers like us, the actual cost comes, how do you return back or how do you do the RTV with the vendor? Now, that can be done by having some great contracts. We've have a bi-monthly or a monthly return cycle. And generally, if it's a product issue or if it's closer to expiry or if it's expired products, brands generally come and take that and replace it. And if you give them just a great data visibility in terms of setting up MBQs and relaying them the inventory levels as to how much returns, etc., I think it can be done in a much more efficient way and eliminate this 1 to 1.5% also.
Right. Thank you, Abhinav. Anish.
I think I always say that platforms have spoiled the habits of returns. You will be really surprised. I'm just concluding it. It started with 30 days, came down to 20, then 50, now 10 days. It's all about perception. Mindset of the customer and the perception is, especially in electronics, is a lot to do with the perception issue of the customer. We have seen returns where a TV has been fixed, HDMI has been done from your set-top box, and the TV is not working. He called up, your TV is not working. He has not checked the HDMI wire also of the set-top box. Okay, so that kind of habits that we have given to the consumer, it is very, very important. The consumer should be very educated, and while returning, he should know the pain. And that's what now the e-commerce sites have started doing. Because the kind of bottom line losses that they were generating because of returns, in future you will see 7 days and returns will not be accepted very easily. Okay, for apparels I know because I keep on, they have a skill set where they see and they smell the product also sometimes and they don't take the returns. And for TV especially, if everything is fine with the TV, there's a perception that they will refuse the return. Because everything, you have seen everything, there's no problem with the television, there's no problem with the washing machine, they will not take the returns.
Right.
And add to that, if there is a problem, they will give in their wallet. They will not give the refund to their credit cards or into their bank accounts. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Thank you, Avneet ji, and thank you all the panelists for your time this afternoon. It's lunchtime now, but clearly the insights that all of you have given, I think, will be retailers' playbook for navigating the complex supply chains in the year ahead and the related trends. Thank you so much once again.